Good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the October 24, 2023 business meeting. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we are joined by 6 of our board members, our superintendent of schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, Mr. Robert Haas, our interim assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Mr. Luis Frontero, our district legal counsel, Mr. Edward McCarthy, our district clerk, Ms. Suzanne Benetti, and our student rep, Alexander Palacios, will be here soon. Before we get into our special recognitions for the night, we just really want to remind the community there are 2 opportunities for the community to participate during the Board of Ed meeting. The first is just before the board takes up its agenda, and the second follows the disposition of all agenda items. If you'd like to speak tonight, we ask that you come to the podium. You must be a resident or an employee of the school district. Anyone else must be voted in by a majority vote of the Board of Education. The normal allotted time is approximately 3 minutes. For the convenience of the community, all of our meetings are live streamed and posted to the board docs on our website. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, we've added a few. You can follow us on Instagram at BBP School District, on Facebook at Bayport Blue Point School District, and if you want to follow us on X, it's at BBP Schools, and if you want to follow Dr. Harney, it's at BBP Soup. But before we get into the agenda tonight and any new or old business we want to pass over to Dr. Harney, we do have special recognitions tonight. We thank you guys so much for coming. It's an outstanding, and we want to dedicate a big piece of the meeting to you guys right here in the front for all your hard work over the years. So thank you guys so much. Dr. Harney?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mill. I just have a couple of quick announcements before we get into the recognitions. First, just as always, we had a very successful homecoming. I'd like to thank everybody who came out and braved the weather. It seems as if every single weekend we're getting a little bit wet, but it was a great weekend. So thank you to everybody who came out and supported our BBP Phantoms. Other piece is just a couple of things that you'll be getting in the next couple of weeks or so, and days even. One of the things that we're going to start to doing is we're going to start to send home like a quarterly, I'll call it for now an SEL, Social Emotional Learning monthly newsletter. And it's really quarterly, it'll be done quarterly. And it's really just to kind of tell you what is going on in the buildings and give you information. So that is something that we're looking forward to sharing with you. Also, my family's at Blue Point Elementary. You probably received an email from Mrs. Velasco, I want to say it was either yesterday or today, talking about that. You may have heard me talk about in the past that we have updated our website, but we're also trying to move away from ConnectEd, which is really how we communicate with you. We moved to another platform called Aptigee, but one of the things you may get, Blue Point, we're going to test it with you first. It's going to come from a place called ThrillShare, and basically it's the behind the scenes, and it's really going to be a test message to you. Really what we're just trying to test is making sure that you're not getting it 35,000 times. We want to make sure you're getting it one email, one phone call. So any of the things, if there's any problems with that, in the email that Ms. Velasco had sent you, you reach out to M. Weinstein, who's on there, Melissa Weinstein, and she'll take care of it, but we're trying to keep record of it. So then we're going to test each building one by one, just so people are aware. So that is going to happen. And then just the last thing, and I know she's not here tonight, but Janine Browning, who happens to work in the district office, many of you are very familiar with the BBP Foundation that does tremendous work for our community and for our schools. This past year, she was our honoree, so I would just like to congratulate her. Her golf outing was postponed originally due to rain, but then it was, I want to say it was last Monday, so they got it in and she had great weather, so congratulations to her. Yep, thank you. With that being said, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight and thank you for coming. Tonight we do have some recognitions, and we're happy to have everybody here with us. So that being said, first of all, I'd like to congratulate all of our students. We have students here who at the high school are being recognized for really, I'm not going to say it's just this past year's work, it's really 13 years of work. It really is in terms of our valedictorian and salutatorian, so we'll do that in a minute. We also, as you know, we have our school calendar, and we take a lot of the artwork from our students. So again, that's really, we want to recognize them tonight as well. And I'd also like to thank all of our staff who have helped all of these students with everything that they've accomplished. So we're going to do that tonight as well as we're going forward. And then the last thing is October is the Board of Recognition Month. So we have a number of students here to kind of recognize our Board of Ed, and I really would just like to thank them for all their support all the years and for everything that they have done. So thank you to them. If we can give everyone a round of applause. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Haas, who's going to do our first set of introductions. Mr. Haas.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. For our first recognition, this is kind of bittersweet for me as the former high school principal. This is something that any high school principal looks forward to doing every year, and it's really a momentous occasion for you. So I am going to turn it over, call up Mr. Nolan, our high school principal, who will be presenting to you the class of 2024 valedictorian and salutatorian.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Dr. Harney, members of District Office Administration, Mr. Miller, members of the Board of Education, it is an absolute privilege to be here this evening to recognize two of Bayport Blue Point High School's very finest and to specifically introduce them officially as the valedictorian and salutatorian of the class of 2024. Our salutatorian, Faith DiBiase, come on up. Faith is an incredibly talented young woman. She has challenged herself academically by taking 15 advanced placement courses and several college-level classes as well. She's an active member of the National Honor Society, and she's involved in several other co-curricular activities. And most importantly, I would tell you, Faith is a wonderful, genuinely kind, and humble young lady, and her future is very bright. And if I'm not mistaken, you have yet to choose the lucky college or university that will have you. Congratulations. Oh, there you go. The valedictorian for the class of 2024 is George Rose. George is an outstanding young man with so much to offer. He too has challenged himself academically by taking 15 advanced placement courses as well as numerous college level courses. George is also an active member of the National Honor Society. He is a member of the volleyball team and the baseball team, and he's involved in so many other co-curricular activities as well. And there are still also many colleges and universities waiting for George's decision. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan, and again, congratulations. As Dr. Harney mentioned before, every year with the school calendar, we have student artwork that is selected to be included in our calendar for each month. And every year at the beginning, we like to recognize those students for this achievement at a board meeting. So I am going to call up each of our students that are here tonight. First, I do have a couple of students that were unable to make it, but I do want to acknowledge them as well. If one of them happens to be here, and I see you stand up, we'll come on up front. But we had Michaela Allegro, Scarlett Flood Baldessari, Robin Jones, and Melanie Russert. So next, when you come up, please stay up here with the certificate so we can get a group picture at the end. We have Elizabeth Camposano. Kara Gazy. Logan Ilucci. Scarlett Kingston. Soleil Loftus. Ariel Rosenwig. Vera Sepulveda. And Heidi Sprague. Not sure Heidi was able to make it. So congratulations to our students with their artwork. They did a tremendous job. And for our final recognition this evening, we are joined by all 5 building principals or representatives from each building, as well as students from each building. As Dr. Harney had mentioned, this is Board of Education Recognition Week, so I do want to, on behalf of the buildings, I do want to thank the Board of Education for the countless hours that they put into everything for our district. And we will start with, at the elementary level, we are going to start with Academy Street, and I'm introducing Miss Lori Beard.
Emma Schoenhar, Liza Thompson, Kira Clark, Catherine Hatzidakis, Grace Messiano, Avery Hartwell, Fiona Brinkman, Zusha Kinsey.
I'd also like to thank Bailey Whitney for helping with these beautiful gifts that the kids made for the Board of Ed. All right. Thank you. We appreciate you. You want to sing? Sing?
Thank you, Ms. Beard and Academy Street. I'd now like to call up Ms. Tara Falasco, Blue Point Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call up the students. These are actually grade level buddies that work together throughout the year, and they were doing such a great job, so I wanted them to show how well they work together. So Juliet Raymond, 5th grader. John Sauter. Flynn Whitehead. Warren Wolf. Harper Ialucci. And Ava Harms. All right, so Flynn, stand right here. Switch them, and then Ava. Okay. And we have a little poem for you.
Our school board is made up of 7 dedicated people who volunteer their time to provide a safe and nurturing environment because BBE is where you belong.
They also take time to recognize and support us throughout the year because
BBE is where we believe.
BBP. We are too. But.
They spend many hours making sure all the students have everything they need to succeed because BBP is where anything is possible.
Good job. We have a little poster for you. A picture?
Thank you, Ms. Velasco, and the students of Blue Point Elementary. Next, I would like to call up Sylvan Avenue Principal, Mr. Scardino, and the Sylvan Avenue students.
Good evening, everyone. It really is a pleasure to be here representing Sylvan Avenue Elementary School. Congratulations and thank you very much to our Board of Education for all their dedication and hard work. We do have 2 students here. Our little guy just took off to go to the restroom, so Harrison will be back. And Harrison, yes. So I have with me tonight 2 students. I have Everly Arena here representing our intermediate students, and we have Harrison Clay here representing our primary level students. And we have a beautifully decorated card for our Board of Education by our wonderful art teacher, Mrs. Carly Gare, who helped us. And can we open it up? Harrison, can we open it? Show everybody. It is signed by all of our students, front and back. And there's a very special message written here on the inside to our Board of Education members. So we thank you, and our students were very excited to participate in this great activity, and it says Sylvan Stars Shine Brightly. So thank you very much.
And next, I would like to introduce our student representative to the Board of Education and a member of the Suffolk County champion girls tennis team, Allie Blachos.
I doing my rundown or am I just introduced? Oh, okay, sorry. In appreciation for the Board of Education, here's a performance by the middle school and high school jazz band and high school jazz choir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Weber. I'm the chairperson for the Art and Music Department, and we want to give you a sincere thank you for all of the support you give for the whole school district throughout the year. We know it's a very difficult job at times, very rewarding job at times, and we really do appreciate your support, and thank you. This evening, our first group that will be performing is our combined middle school and high school jazz band under the direction of Mr. Sarling and Mr. Hurst, and we will be performing a piece called Basic Cully Blues, basically, Count Basie, a little pun on words there, and it's arranged by Mike Story. So enjoy. Our next performance for you this evening is from our high school vocal jazz ensemble, and under the direction of Mrs. Kalori, formerly known as Mrs. Golaski, who was married just a few months ago this summer. They will be performing Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. And our last selection of the evening for you is our high school jazz band, once again under the direction of Mr. Michael Sarling. And they will be performing Casey and the Sunshine Band, arranged by Mike Lewis.
Just before everyone goes, just really want to say thank you so much for coming out tonight. One more round of applause for our salutatorian and valedictorian, please. Want to congratulate our students for being recognized for their artwork. And lastly, the board really appreciates being recognized. Definitely not expected or necessary, but we do appreciate it. All the thanks we need is seeing students have opportunities and being successful here. So thank you guys so much for everything. We truly appreciate it. But if you guys want to get out of here for the night, we'd understand. Have a great night, and this is what makes Bayport Blue Point so special. All right, thank you guys so much. At this time, we'll turn it over to our student rep, Ms. Falachos.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. This week at the high school, the musical auditions are happening. We should know our parts by Friday. I personally auditioned yesterday. Pre-SAT and ACT day is tomorrow, so if you're a senior, you don't have to come in till 11:19. 10:25 is the talent show rehearsal for the CB's talent show. I recommend participating in that if you have a talent that you would like to share. There's a Spain trip meeting on October 30th for any students who would like to go to Spain, who take Spanish. For college applications, SUNY schools are lifting their application fee from October 16th to October 29th. So mark your calendars. Trunk or Treat and the Haunted House are coming up for Halloween. Yeah. At the middle school, Red Ribbon Week begins tomorrow. Winter sports start on November 6th, and the National Junior Honor Society induction is on November 1st. For Blue Point, tomorrow is Blue Point Elementary Day, so there's a week of activities for veterans this week, and what did I write? Oh, thank you to Mrs. Monhan for setting that up. And at Academy Street, they just had their Family Fall Festival by the PTA. The students had a great time, and it went very well. Upcoming at Academy Street, they're looking forward to their Halloween parade and their author visit, Gina Casaza. And the Veterans Day Assembly is coming up this week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we open it up for community new business, just wanted to read a quick statement, and then I will pass over to Dr. Harney. The Board of Education appreciates and recognizes that there are still varying opinions on the books at this time. In addition, we are aware of conversations and questions surrounding the two books that are located in the high school library. In 2020, Genderqueer and All Boys Aren't Blue were purchased by the district from recommendations and research from the American Library Association. In June of 2022, there was a display posted on Twitter for Pride Month. We are not aware of any concerns, any library materials until a parent arrived at a Board of Education meeting with a poster board with photos from this book. In November of 2022, the district received a challenge to Policy 1420 for the books. From the day the challenge was received until April of 2023, the two library books within the Bayport Blue Point High School Library, together with the complaint regarding the books, underwent the district's thorough review pursuant to Board of Education Policy 1420. Specifically, the review was conducted first by the district's secondary instructional council and then by the superintendent of schools. As part of that process, and as required by Policy 1420, the library books were examined with their values and faults, weighed with the source materials referenced. The review also encompassed ascertaining whether the library books, when considered as a whole and as a collective work, contained literary value based on the genre and dominant themes conveyed by the author throughout the entire work. After the complainant appealed the superintendent's decision to keep the library books available for reference within the high school library, the Board of Education trustees next reviewed the complaint and read the library books. At the Board of Education meeting on April 18, 2023, members of the Board of Education publicly voiced their individual perspectives on the book. Ultimately, the board decided to keep the library books within the Bayport Blue Point High School Library. Notwithstanding the Board of Education's previous compliance and adherence to Policy 1420 during the 2022-2023 school year, the district and the board is presently considering an amendment to Policy 1420 that would permit parental representatives to review with the district's instructional council any challenged library materials. Each member of the Board of Education recognizes that there exist strong opinions and feelings by parents and residents within the Bayport Blue Point community on this specific issue. But at this time, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Harney to discuss the process in addition to the Board of Education statement that was just read. Dr. Harney?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. So I don't have a prepared statement for you, but I will go through just some points of the process that took place over the course of last year. It'll be similar to what I had said on April 18th, but I figure I would review that for everyone just so that they had all the background information. So the two books that we are talking about that have been challenged, or a complaint has been filed against, as Mr. Miller had alluded to, was Genderqueer and All Boys Aren't Blue. Both of them have been in the high school library since December of 2020. So roughly 3 years that they've been in the high school. Just as a matter of fact, in terms of that time frame, we've had, appears to be one student had taken one of the books out for less than an hour to date. So we had looked at that as well. So both books are what they consider a personal memoir. One is categorized as a graphic novel. So now I'm just going to go through the things that were considered. Mr. Miller alluded to Policy 1420. There were a number of steps before it went to the instructional council, but I will pick it up really from the instructional council. Whenever there is a complaint against a piece of curriculum or library books, in this case, it was the library books, that's what we had looked at. Both books were recommended by the American Library Association, and for grades 9 through 12, or really high school is where they were deemed. So the books are not in in any of the other libraries, and they are not curriculum. They are there as a resource, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So please know, first of all, that the process that was taken was a thorough process. As Mr. Miller had alluded to, it had lasted for about 6 months. It started with the original complaint in October, November, where it went through the various phases of the policy, and you can look that up. The policy is online. It is there for you if you'd like to take a look at it, to the point where you had many people take a look at it. There's also a second policy that was considered at this time. So Policy 1420 really talks about if you're going to challenge something. Policy 4510 talks about library books, or actually any curricula. And one of the things, and I had read this on the 18th of November, of April last year, so I will read it again. That's something that was considered as it went through the instructional council, and I'll talk about the instructional council a little bit as well. The Board of Education's aim is to provide materials that present all points of view concerning the contemporary problems and issues. Books and other reading materials shall be selected for values of interest and enlightenment of all students in the community. A work shall not be excluded because of the race, nationality, political, or religious views of its authors or its style and language. Books and other reading material of sound factual authority shall not be precluded or removed from the library or classrooms because of partisan doctrinal approval or disapproval. So that was something that was considered when it had gone to the instructional council. I know one of the other pieces people had talked about within the, that I've heard about is that there was a secret committee. There is no secret committee. We've had a pre-existing instructional council. I want to say, I've been here now 16 years, so it's been at least 16 years. And really the purpose of the council, it's made up of K-12 curriculum people, and it's really to talk about anything instructional and curriculum based. It could go from, if you remember years ago when we talked about switching curriculum, they were part of that process. As a matter of fact, you've probably heard us talk about the instructional council here at various board meetings as we've talked about. As a matter of fact, it was probably spoken about last year when we were talking about adding robotics. That was something that we had talked about. It had to go through the instructional council. So as I mentioned, they are a pre-existing committee that has been around for a number of years that handles it. So as it went through the policy and came to them, that was something that they were charged with. Other things that was presented to them or material that they had looked at was various case law. Certain cases, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but things that they looked at was Tinker versus Board of Ed. They looked at Pico versus Island Trees, and they talked about Miller versus California, and that was one of the most interesting ones as you took a look at it. Also within some of the research that was done, there was also a court case that was done down in the South that talked about whether the books were obscene, which they found that they were not down in a southern state. But when you're looking at the Miller versus California, I'll give you that part. They talk about it as almost of a three-pronged test. Again, this is something that was considered as everybody was looking at this. And as it went through each of the phases, just know everyone has read the books as well, all the way from the beginning of the first step of the policy through the end, through the Board of Education. That was something that was talked about. But within the Miller versus California, as I said, there was a three-pronged piece. And really the piece that sticks out the most is that third prong, which talks about passages or parts should not be pulled out of context. Values and faults weighed. It's all right. No, I just want to share the facts. That's all I would like to do. So the passages or parts should not be pulled out of context. Values and faults weighed against each other, and the opinions based on the material as a whole. So one of the big things that they had to do, or anyone who has, as this went through the process and the policy, was to look at things holistically, and they had to look at the entire text, both texts as whole. So that was something that was considered. And then as a last piece that was really considered, actually two last pieces were the idea of curriculum versus being a library book or a library material. And one of the things that comes up here, as I said, and again, this is about a library book, is when you're thinking about a library, there are certain criteria that you are supposed to try to meet, and I'll read those to you. It's supposed to be a place for discovery of knowledge. It's supposed to be a place for voluntary inquiry. It's supposed to be a place where students can connect with others with similar backgrounds. It's supposed to be a place where students can connect with, a place with students that should use them, that should see themselves, and where students can gain empathy and understanding for others through diverse stories. A place where students have access to all genres. So that was something, again, as it went through the policy that people were considering. And then really the last piece, which I had shared on the 18th as well in April, was there was a research project. It's called the Trevor Project. It's very popular. It comes from the year of 2022 is when it was published. And it talks about students that are struggling with their gender or sexuality. And many of you may know this, but one of the leading causes for students in suicide is students who struggle with their gender and sexuality, especially between the ages of 13 to 17. In this age group, if you were to look at this report, it talks about 50% of those students between the ages of 13 and 17 have suicidal thoughts. Of that same percentage, 18% of them also at least attempt suicide once. So again, that was something that was looked at. So overall, as people were looking at it and it was going through the process, they looked at this from a legal standpoint, from a holistic standpoint, and from a social emotional standpoint. So that is the process. And it ended, as I said, is in April 18th, when a public meeting was held by the Board of Education where they did have a discussion. So I just wanted to share that with everyone so that everyone had all the background, because I know there have been many different stories out there and things that are shared, but so I just wanted to share with you that, again, I'd like to thank everybody that went through the policy. I'd like to thank the instructional council, because as you can see, nothing was ever taken lightly. We understand there are two sides to every story, but it was something that everyone put a ton of time into when they were looking at this. So again, I would just like to thank them for all their time. With that, I would turn it back to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. At this time, we'll open it up to any community members for any new or old business. We ask that you please state your name if you're from Bayport or Blue Point, and we ask you to keep it to approximately 3 minutes. Not hearing any. Move on to consent agenda. Are there any items the board would like placed or removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Not hearing any. Can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items F, G, H, I, and J?
So moved.
Ms. Koenig, second by Ms.
Second.
Pignataro. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to our one regular agenda item. Can I have a motion to gratefully accept a donation from the American Heart Association for supplies in the amount of $100? Mr. Krug, second.
Second.
Ms. Conley, as always, we want to thank anyone who donates to the school district to help support our students. So thank you so much to the American Heart Association. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to closing business. At this time, we'll open it up to the community members. Anybody who would like to come to the podium?
No, I can hear you online too.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me today to give my opinion and my professional opinion. I'm Dr. Sarita Duchatelier. I'm a child neurologist of 25 years. I work at Good Samaritan Hospital.
Are you from Bayport Blue Point?
I have been a resident here for over 26 years. I have raised 3 sons here in this community. I've been under the radar because obviously as a physician, I take care of a lot of the parents, children in this community. I have really not been that vocal until today. And I have to tell you that I was appalled myself, just as a mother of raising 3 sons in this community, when I received the letter from Mr. Steve Levy. And like many others, I actually thought it was a scam. I really thought it wasn't real. So I had to investigate it myself, of course. And I have to tell you that I do believe that this was a form of child pornography in these books. And how I can prove it to you is for those who don't understand Tanner stage. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Tanner staging. Some of those pictures in the books are showing Tanner stage 2, which is young children, with Tanner stage 4, older individuals. And this was what was concerning for me, because as a pediatric neurologist who have spent her entire life making sure that children are safe, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I'm also an inner city girl who was exposed very early on in East New York to many of these things, but never in school. I've always felt safe growing up in East New York whenever I entered a school district. So one thing I don't hear about this policy is a physician or even a nurse or professional medical people giving you advice in terms of actually having certain books, okay? So I would like to know who in this room would want to have these books on their computer or graphically on their own computer and feel that it's very comfortable to have that on. So I had an issue with that, and everyone I showed this books to, and then you guys send us the information, they had a lot of problems with it. So this was still concerning for me. So for those who want to look at Tanner staging, so I had very athletic sons, and in 8th grade, the varsity coach was knocking on my door because they wanted my sons to play soccer in the school district. I did not want my 8th grade sons to play varsity soccer because I knew a 13-year-old boy should not be playing 17, 18-year-old children in soccer. So I preferred to go to St. Anthony's with my 2 older boys, and my 3rd one went to high school here. So many would say I don't have any skin in the game because my sons are finished, but I am very concerned, and I would like that brought up in terms of tanner staging and what's not only physically appropriate for children, but also mentally appropriate for them with these books. And child pornography is a thing in terms of looking at the tanner staging that's portrayed in these books. And both female and male youths are exposed to early sexual victimization. And it's very important to know I'm also the sister-in-law of a very prominent OBGYN who sees a lot of teenage pregnancy as well as a lot of sexual transmitted disease. So it's very simple to throw books at children and expect them to interpret what the books are about. But it's harder to actually give children very good sexual education and to take it to another level and to help the parents understand it as well. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Any other community members? How are you?
My name is Kim Harrison. I'm here to talk about busing.
If you could just say Bayport, Blue Point, I know we know,
Yes,
but
I'm from Blue Point. I live in Bayport, Blue Point. I've been here for 20 years, but this is the first time I felt strongly enough to speak at a Board of Ed meeting. I actually wanted to share more, but I don't want to share too much in a public forum because I don't want this shared. My son takes bus 6 from the middle school. I've been talking a lot to Brian Cordes. And I wrote down some of the details so that I would share. I'm not sure if the community is aware of how much some parents are definitely struggling with getting our children to school on time. The buses are late, the buses don't show up. I'm not sure if Mr. Cordes' department needs more support. I'm not sure. A lot of parents had reached out to me after I had shared my information about it and my frustration. And most of the parents were saying that they had reached out to the district is aware, and Mr. Cordes is repeatedly saying that I'm the first person that he's heard of who's
if we
having
could
a
just be
problem.
mindful of saying people's name, but I can promise you, after you speak, that we will make sure somebody reaches out to you directly.
That's not enough.
Got it.
Very politely. And this is why I'm okay sharing this in a public forum. Our district is aware that there was a bus driver that our district recommended suspension last week because the person was caught going to get food instead of picking up the children. So I know it's a full room. I feel like the community needs to know that we spent a lot of money and time and effort bringing forth the child's safety zones, making sure that we were doing the right thing, making sure that we were putting the priority where the priorities should be. And now we're kind of literally leaving children on a corner for 30 minutes while the bus driver goes to get food. And then when they suspend the driver still came back the very next day to pick up my child. And I was expected to put him on the bus. So I would like to put forth, maybe we could form a committee of parents who could maybe bring some of these concerns further up than just to the Director of Transportation. I know that I had reached out to you about that before, and it didn't sound like that was something we were interested in, but if we have a contract and the contract is not being fulfilled, I don't think it's money worth us spending. I would rather just drive him, have him ride his bike.
All right, well, thank you so much.
So I was on the thread, so I am well aware of it. And I know that our bus transportation person had gone back and forth with you and had spoken to you, and he was under the impression that the person the next day was taken off the route, and he got the information from you, and then he followed up immediately, and then they were removed. But I believe there was a police part on his end where he wasn't, I don't know if he wasn't there that day, but it was all addressed. Again, it was the next day, not the next day, correct? But it was the one, yes, I agree with you, I'm not disagreeing.
Well, thank you so much. Any other community members? How are you?
Hi, how are you? My name is John Kennedy. I'm a resident of Bayport. I've lived here my whole life, and I just have some other concerns I wanted to bring up about those books in question. A few definitions we got to look at is age appropriate, suitable or right for people of a particular age. That's from dictionary.cambridge.org. Wordreference.com defines explicit, having sexual acts or nudity clearly depicted. These are important definitions that need to be addressed. Just because an argument can be made that a reading material may have literary value or educational value, if it's polluted with pornography in explicit situations, it needs to be taken into account for the target audience. Teachers, school librarians, administrators, board members cannot act as the arbiter for the children. That discretion lies solely with the child's parents. Clearly, the school district is aware of this. In order to show certain films in the school, permission slips must be sent out and returned signed by the parent, giving consent for their child to see that film at school. Why do certain movies require permission slips, even if there's educational value in those films? It's because some films contain small parts, scenes in the movie, and depending on the rating, they're not age appropriate for children under a certain age. We're not trying to discredit that the films aren't educational value or on a certain topic, but it does make the parties involved aware of the content and how it may not be suitable for kids of all ages. There's plenty of examples of books other than the two in question that have no place in the school's library. You mentioned one of the books was a memoir. There's another memoir that's pretty popular. It's Jordan Belfort's memoir, The Wolf in Wall Street. That was a book that was turned into a movie. I'm sure that's not in the school's library. And it's for good reason, because they're not age appropriate. It's not appropriate for kids of that ages. The current Board of Ed and administrators ruled that the books Genderqueer and All Boys Are in Blue shall remain and be available to all students at the high school despite their sexually explicit content, because when looked at in their entirety, they can be seen for their literary value in them. I'm sorry, but by doing so, you are circumventing the parent's right to provide consent for that child to be exposed to explicit content, and that's not acceptable. And then if you look at policy from the BBP's website, section 4000, policy code 4526.1, that's internet safety. The purpose of the superintendent and the board is to block or filter internet access by adults to visual depictions that are obscene, pornographic, and or contain child pornography. It also wants to block internet access by minors to visual depictions that are obscene, pornographic, and or materials that are deemed harmful to minors. If you go to the lower down on that same website page, it defines child pornography right on the school's website. Child pornography refers to any visual depiction of sexually explicit content where the production of such visual depictions involves the use of a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct. It also includes any such visual depiction that is or appears to be of a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct. Harmful to minors means any picture or other visual depiction that, taken as a whole with respect to minors, appeals to a prurient interest in nudity, sex, or excretion, depicts, describes, or represents in a patently offensive way with respect to what is suitable for minors, an actual simulated sexual act or sexual contact, actual or simulated normal or perverted sexual acts, or a lewd exhibition of genitals. This is right from the district's website. You clearly define it, and these books clearly go against that policy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. How are you?
Christine Perry, Blue Point parent. I just like to piggyback what John was speaking about. I feel as if maybe some people in the room have never heard the books. I know when I spoke last time, I was told it was the first time some of the board members were hearing the books. So that was one. That was Genderqueer. I'd like to read, and I know you said excerpts don't matter, but I disagree. I was about 13 when it happened. You were a cool cousin, older by about 4 or 5 years. You whispered to me, "Matt, you awake?" I responded, and you said, "Shh, you gotta be quiet." You then asked me, "You feel that?" "Yeah, get your hand off my butt." "That's not my hand." Then you placed both hands on my hips. There was still something poking me. "We gonna get in trouble." "You can't tell anybody, okay?" You said, "You promise that you're not gonna tell anyone?" "I promise." Then you grabbed my hand and made me touch it. It was the first time I ever touched a penis that wasn't mine. I knew what was happening wasn't supposed to happen. Cousins weren't supposed to do these things with cousins. We were crossing a line that should never cross. You kept saying, "Matt, it's fine. Trust me. You know I wouldn't do anything to hurt you." There you stood in front of me, fully erect, and said, "Taste it." At first I laughed and refused, but then you said, "Come on, Matt, taste it." This is what boys like us do when we like each other. I finally listened to you. There is much more detail on the sexual encounter that the time will not allow for. It does end with, "I won't tell anyone." And I didn't. That night stayed our secret. We live in a town that claims that mental health awareness is at the top of our priorities. We're filled with a school with rooms that are considered safe spaces, which brings me to the point of, how is a school not a safe place? But it's not when you house things like this on the shelves. Things like this. This is from the last time I spoke. Maybe some of you haven't seen the graphic images that we should consider the literary value of. This does not belong in a school. I'm glad it's funny. Great. These are minors. Minors. If I handed this to a child on the street, I would be arrested. How is this allowed on our shelves? How? My son will be 13 when he enters our high school. 13 years old. God forbid he were to get his hands on this. How is this not a lawful thing? How is this allowed? There is no literary value to something that is filled with this or this. Mental health. This child was coerced into sexual encounters with his cousin. How is that literary value? It doesn't. It doesn't. I know my time is up. I'm very aware. I'm very aware.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay. Can I take her time?
No. Thank you so much.
I
Because you have
do
the
have
opportunity,
one-
other people have the opportunity to come up and speak if they would like.
I do just have a
We don't
question
pass
before I-
time, but if somebody wants to come up, everybody gets their time.
I just have a question before I finish.
It doesn't work like that here.
The committee, hold on one second. Hold on. The committee that was, it's my one question before I leave. The committee that was put together to read this, are there minutes? Are we able to see that? I'm part of committees, and we have minutes that are posted online. Are there minutes that we can see?
No.
So how are we to know
Thank you so much.
what was discussed?
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Jessica Olcher. I live in Bayport. The timer didn't start yet, right? Can you pause it? Game clock. Reset.
Thank you so much. What'd you say?
I said, can we reset the game clock? Because, there was applause and it wasn't mine.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. So I have 2 kids in the high school.
Please give your name.
I
please.
did.
Oh, sorry.
All right. You want me to do it again?
Please.
Reset the game clock, though. I'm 20 seconds off now. Jessica Olcher, Bayport. I have 2 kids in the high school and 1 kid in elementary school. We went through all of this last year, but some Z-list politician with some weird agenda has stirred things up again, which is weird because the school is not a political organization. But I'm a librarian, maybe I'm biased, but I think we have qualified trained staff. And when this letter came home, I said to my freshman, "Hey buddy, is there pornography in the library?" And he said, "I don't know." So I said, you know what? I don't want you looking at any pornography. And like, problem solved. What a novel solution. Parents talking to their children and being partners in their education and discussing at home what the values are and what they would like their children to access on an optional basis inside the school. It's not really that hard. And I'm sorry that we have to go through all of this again. And thank you all for volunteering your time and sitting through this. I'm sorry that we're doing it again.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? My
Good,
name
thanks.
is Alison Kohler. I am a Bayport resident. I have lived here for 24 years, my 24 years of being alive, and I never thought in my life I would see this happen. I never thought I would see a room full of people who are all so filled with just disdain for each other.
If we could just keep the comments this way.
This is a personal memoir. This is not a book coercing children into doing anyone. This is someone's life. This has happened to them. We need to understand that not every child gets the opportunity to grow up protected and loved and supported, and these children have every right to see their stories told. So yes, you have books with upsetting scenes. Other books that have been banned for pornography, The Scarlet Letter, Beloved by Toni Morrison, Catcher in the Rye. I mean, these are books that are part of curriculum, and they've been banned for being pornographic and explicit. If you want to talk about definitions, the definition of pornography is that it is the intent to arouse. It's the intention. Someone's life experience of going through trauma and trying to figure out their gender identity and who they are has no intention to arouse anyone. It is someone's lived experience, their pain that they put out in a book. And I know that this won't get any applause, and I know that it won't change any minds, but I'm a public librarian. I have lived here my entire life, and it is deeply disappointing to see what has happened in this community and to see how angry everyone is at each other and just how quick we are to pull images out of context and start yelling and throwing out buzzwords when we don't even know what we're talking about. I understand everyone is worried about their children. My parents were worried about me when I was in school. I'm worried about the kids that I work with. When I see the middle schoolers come in, of course I'm worried about them. I want to know that they're doing okay. But I also understand that this book is not the greatest threat in the world to them. This is someone's life story, and they are allowed to tell their life story. And if you don't want your child to read that life story, by all means say, these are the books you are not allowed to read. As a parent, it is absolutely your right to determine what your child reads and doesn't read, but you need to have that conversation. You need to tell them, and you do not get to decide that for every other child in the district. Thank you.
Thank you so much. How are you?
Hi, Nikki Robinson. I have 2 kids in the district. One is a high schooler. To say I am disappointed would be an understatement. The books, All Boys Aren't Blue and Gender Queer, are simply inappropriate to be available to our children, but they are currently sitting on the shelf in the BBP High School Library. These books contain graphic and inappropriate text and images. We're not talking about adults here. We're not talking about people choose to read whatever they desire in the privacy of their own homes. This is about inappropriate material on a bookshelf inside a school library. Not a public library, by the way, a school library. One book graphically depicts underage individuals performing oral sex on each other. Another book contains written passages that explicitly describes oral and anal sexual activity involving a young teen with a family member. That would be incest. How is this appropriate material for an academic setting? Earlier this year, the books were removed from the library for inappropriate content and then put back. My questions are, why were they put back? Who decided this was appropriate material to be accessible to our kids? I am aware there was a committee created to review the process, reviewing the books. Who is on this committee? I was told stakeholders, but no parents. I'm sorry, but who are bigger stakeholders in issues affecting our kids than parents? Why are the names of the people on this committee not being shared? Because I asked for them. Why are we being denied access to the minutes from these meetings? Why is there no transparency? What are you hiding? Honestly, I could go on and on about the inappropriateness of these books in school, but I won't, because what I really want are answers to the questions I just asked.
Thank you so much, Ms. Robinson. How are you, sir?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Jim DeMar. I'm a licensed clinical social worker residing in our community. I worked as a special education teacher and school social worker at Western Suffolk BOCES for...
You live in Bayport Blue Point?
Excuse me?
You live in Bayport Blue Point?
Yes. I live in Blue Point, yes. I've worked with students affected by pornography and sexual abuse and exploitation. I thought at this point it might be important and might be helpful to present a portion of a paper written by Dr. Amanda Giordano describing the effects of pornography with teenagers. Dr. Giordano is an associate professor of counseling at the University of Georgia. She specializes in addiction counseling and has clinical, instructional, and scholarly experience related to both chemical and behavioral addictions. What is the problem with pornographic exposure with teenage students? It has been reported that 68.4% of adolescents reported viewing pornography at some point in their lifetime. The bulk of literature reveals that for adolescents, such exposure can be harmful. For example, adolescent pornography exposure has been linked to permissive sexual attitudes, dominant or aggressive sexual behaviors, self-objectification, which means when people view themselves and others as objects for use instead of as human beings, and body comparison and development of pornography-influenced sexual scripts. Adolescent brains are in a period of development in which the rational problem-solving frontal part of the brain is not as connected as the emotional reward-experiencing part of the midbrain due to a process called myelination, which is associated with the central nervous system. Therefore, adolescents have a heightened sensitivity to rewarding behaviors like using drugs of abuse, pornography, gaming, etc., and often need assistance with goal-oriented, rational problem solving, which does not occur as quickly as the processing of rewards. Additionally, adolescent brains are in critical periods of development and brain restructuring, and they may be more susceptible and sensitive to the impact of pornography compared to adults. Indeed, the highly rewarding nature of pornography, arousing, exciting, pleasurable, may be for some adolescents lead to the loss of control over pornography use, compulsive use, and use that leads to negative consequences. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. How are you?
Good evening. My name is Anthony. I'm a Bayport resident for 3 years now. My wife and I moved here under one of the main reasons we moved here was because we felt strongly about the school district and believed it was going to be a very safe place for our daughter, and we were planning to have kids. So we just had a daughter not too long ago.
Congrats.
And, thank you. And I just wanted to come up here to briefly state my strong opposition to 2 books currently on the shelves, which we obviously know the names of at this point. Due to their content being 18 and over, mostly because of the graphics and the amount of detail that goes into the literature. I've already done so to this audience by email, and I felt that I was just brushed off, saying that took a year-long study and there's nothing left for us to do as parents. And to me, I felt that it was important for me to come up here and to speak my support. Although I do understand the underlying point trying to be conveyed in this memoir that others call it, I think the way that it's being portrayed is inappropriate for this audience, which is often children as young as 13 in high school. And you know, it's not necessarily the overall point that's trying to be conveyed. As I said, it's just the images and the amount of graphic descriptions is very unnecessary to get the point across. And I don't know if, you know, I'm sure many of you are parents, and to me, watching a 13-year-old perform oral sex would be very uncomfortable for me, and I would never want to see it. And to put it in a book where 13-year-olds and maybe your children at one point could have access to easily, that's just pretty disturbing to me. And I just hope that you guys can at least provide some more detail to us parents as to how this decision was made. And that's it, short and sweet, but thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. How are you?
Hello, Antonia Sauter, Blue Point resident. I actually read this book today instead of carving the 20 pumpkins that I have to give for our spooky walk at the elementary on Thursday. And I was somewhat shocked to find out that this book is not about someone who is constantly having sex, but is 25, is a virgin, and is identified as asexual. I'm totally for everyone not having porn in schools. That sounds great. I agree that children are exposed to porn too early. Conversation for a different day. But honest to God, I came in with an open mind, and the passage I felt moving, which was the prologue, was seeing yourself in the world, knowing that you're not alone, that you could actually have a future as yourself is life-saving. My parents worked hard to make sure I couldn't find those positive portrayals, but that censorship did not make me not queer. What it did was make me afraid, lonely, and filled with self-loathing. I shoved pieces of myself into locked boxes and buried them in the darkest corners of my mind, never to be opened to the light of day. But those boxes didn't go away. They stay there radiating pain until it becomes the background noise of your life. That is how Genderqueer opens. The book, the images that everyone is so upset about, there's three. One is depicting Play-Doh. One is like half a butt cheek.
Just keep the comments this way.
Half the butt cheek. And then like the second one is two women, not a penis, which I definitely was surprised about. And then immediately they say that they don't want to do that again. The entire book was about fantasy not living up to the reality of sex, that sex is complicated, that sex is hard, and that they identify with being asexual. We're not talking about the parts of the book where they strongly identify with the phrase, I just want to cuddle, or why have sex when you can have cake. We're getting sidetracked with politics in our school. I don't believe that our Board of Ed needs to be an ideological battleground. I love the people on the other side of this room. I know that they don't agree with them, and they know I don't agree with their point of view. And then we come together and we make field trips and school dances and the spooky walk. And I would like to go back to that. Thank you for your time. I'm sorry I had to say penis at a Board of Ed meeting.
Thank you so much. Hey, how are you?
Hi, BOE.
My name is Jen Sam McCormack. I am a Bayport resident. I have 3 girls in the school. Everyone is talking about the 2 books that we're questioning today. I would like to ask the board, do you think that the school does a very good job of reviewing the books currently at our elementary school, middle school, and high school?
There's a process in place for that.
Okay, can I ask what the process in place of that?
I don't have it on me, but I can get it to you.
Okay, can I ask to have one of the board members recite a part of another book that us parents have in question at the middle school? Is that okay to ask you to do that? Michael Miller, Mr. Miller, can I ask you to read a passage from a book that's in our current library at the middle school?
If you have any questions for the board, we can always get back to you.
No, I'm asking you if you can actually read a passage from a book that is in our middle school library. If you're uncomfortable with that, I can do it for you.
If you'd like to read it, go ahead.
Would you like to read?
If you'd like to read it, I'm definitely not
I
comfortable
will read
reading
it, but
If
you're
you
not
feel like you
comfortable
want to read
reading
it for your 3
Anybody
minutes,
else?
if you want to read
Any-
that.
Mr.
Ms.
Johnson?
McCormick, feel free to read it.
Ms. Cerrone?
Ms. McCormick, please, don't do that.
I'm asking the board if they would like to read this passage.
If you'd
It's
like
in
to
the
read
middle-
it, feel
okay.
free.
Well, I am not going to read it because it is awful. And this book is in our middle school library. It is called The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Have anybody heard of that
What's the
book?
name of the book?
The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. There are many passages that are very concerning, and it should be read and reviewed by somebody that's in charge of our books in the school library. One of the passage I will tell you, I have 54 seconds, there's a lot here. I can't even read because it says on page 64, did you know that Indians are living proof that the N-word, fuck a buffalo? I felt like Roger had kicked me in the face. That was the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. Then on page 131, what are you looking at? She asked me. I'm looking at an anorexic, I say, a really hot anorexic. I want to add, but I don't. I'm not anorexic, she says, I'm bulimic. They have their own freaking websites where they give advice on best laxatives and stuff. What's the difference between bulimics and anorexics, I ask. Anorexics are anorexics all the time, she says. I'm only bulimic when I'm throwing up. There are other passages in here that are really concerning to be in the middle school library, and it's really sad that a parent, me, have to come across these books that possibly, my children possibly might take. So I think that the board, the secondary committee, first I want to thank the board for revamping the policy to allow parents to be in the part of the committee. I think that's very important because
Thank you so much, Ms. McCormick.
I think that we need to do a better job of reviewing these books in school. Thank you. I do have another thing that I want to address.
Thank you
Do
so
I
much,
have-
Ms. McCormick.
Can I have permission to address something for 2 minutes? Can I have the board? This is
Sorry.
on a totally different topic.
Sorry,
No?
sorry.
Do I get to come up again and discuss this topic? It's very important. It has to do with our high school children and what happened at the pep rally.
I would suggest that you can email us and we can have someone from the district reach out to you personally.
I have reached out and I have spoken to the board. I thought maybe that something would be addressed tonight and it wasn't. So is it something
Well, we
that's
can
going to
have
be
someone
addressed
follow
in
up with you
another
personally to have a
I'm sorry?
conversation. We can have someone follow up with you personally to have a conversation about what transpired and what you'd like to share.
I would like to know what is the board going to do so that this type of thing doesn't happen again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick.
Hi, my name is Monica Balistrand. I'm a resident of Bayport Blue Point.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
So it's been a long time since I've gotten up and spoke at a Board of Ed meeting. I don't think any of y'all have seen me here in speaking. Used to come all the time and have quite a lot to say. So I had 2 children go through school here, a graduate of 2016 and a graduate of 2018, and I'm very proud of our school district. I'm proud of the work that our educators do, that our administrators do, and that the Board of Education do. So I thank you for that. I'm concerned when you say that you're considering adding parents to this specific committee. I know that in Bayport Blue Point, we're always trying to bring in all of the stakeholders and have everybody have a voice, and I appreciate that. I think that's a positive thing. However, when I have a pipe that's burst at my house, I don't ask a teacher or an administrator to come and fix it. I call a plumber. When I expect my children to be educated in this district, I ask educators to do it. People who have gone to school boards, people who have...
I just want to confirm what I said, though. The board is presently considering an amendment to policy 1420 that would permit parent or guardian representatives to review the district's instructional council for any challenged library materials. I believe you're talking about the instructional council in general.
That's what I'm concerned about.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about for library materials, though.
I'm not saying that I don't
Oh.
want parent representatives, but I want you to be very cautious in the way that you, I mean, look at this particular auditorium and look at all of these people and the divisiveness and the different feelings. I appreciate that parents want to have a say in their children's upbringing and their children's education and their children's social emotional well-being, and that starts at home. I'm a little bit concerned about some people being able to come in and have a say in my children's, other children's access based on their own political viewpoint or their social concerns. So I just ask that there be a process to determine who's going to be on that board if that's the way that you go about it.
Thank you so much.
And a lot of people are professionals in a lot of different things.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Don't let these people talk everyone.
All right, we're going to be professional, and thank you guys so much for doing that. But if we could just keep our comments, everyone has the right to come to the microphone to speak their mind without any fear of being ridiculed. So I know we might not always agree with what people are saying, but if we can let them say it, we would appreciate it. How are you? Good, thanks.
I'm Dawn Banks. I have 5 children. I call them survivors, 3 of whom went to this school district. I have no political stake because I have a gay child. Thank you. I've been a parent reader for 35 years. I've been a part parent. I've been a special ed parent. I've been a very big supporter of our new library. I'm all about reading. As a matter of fact, my addiction is reading. I'm also, as Dr. Annunziata had asked me to be the health and wellness parent, I'm the original health and wellness parent. I'm not there all the time, but I do my best. My first assignment was to go to the heroin conference in Hop Hog. So I got to see brain slides of everything on your brain from sugar to meth, okay? I also recently just went to the town of Brookhaven trafficking conference, and I learned a lot about that. So one of the big concerns for me is that, yes, it is sexually stimulating because I heard cotton candy and I got really excited. And sugar is the only thing that's more addictive than sugar is sex. But anyway, and we all know that teenage boys, their hormones are running rampant. One of the studies that they're finding, that gentleman pointed out about the science, that it stimulates the dopamine centers of the brain. And then what happens in people that happens, your brain needs more. You need more stimulation, more stimulation. So what's happening is there was recently a study that showed that men, I guess 20-something men, they're no longer going out and dating, so that the birth rate is actually dropping. Okay, so there's definitely an effect on our culture of our children with what they're exposed to, whether it's in the library. Obviously, they have access to the internet. They get it much earlier. But the thing is, we shouldn't be encouraging it. We definitely shouldn't be encouraging sexuality. If we're going to be educating them, we should be educating them about the morals, integrity, a family together, not cheating. That one of the things I read, they said the average teenage girl, by the time she's in her 20s, has 5 partners. Okay, so we need to be more responsible as a culture to protect our children, because I know firsthand about coercive control. I know firsthand about sexual assault. I suspect one of my kids was trafficked. So I mean, there is so much. I understand that it's your responsibility to educate our kids till they're old enough to graduate. But after they're done graduating, they're out in the world, and a lot of these kids are lost and hiding in their basements. So we definitely, while I understand the freedom and the lack of censorship, I agree it should be in the public library, but I don't think it should be in the school. I don't think we should be encouraging boys to be aroused during the day. I really don't. People complain about the way girls dress. It's like, it's one or the other. So I just don't think it's a good idea. I think that we need to really think about the science, because I think the science is very important. Because I read an article today from the American College of Pediatrics, and they talk about how the brain develops and how boys and girls' amygdalas develop differently, and they're not done developing till they're 25. So, there's a lot more to the science. That I understand the literary value and the cultural value, because I believe kids should be able to be able to be open and honest about who they are without being intimidated. But honestly, that material was stimulating, so it was inappropriate. It wasn't educational, and it certainly didn't. To me, it just didn't feel appropriate. So,
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Any other community members? Any other community members? Not hearing any? Oh, sorry. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Hi, my name is Michelle Clune. I'm a resident of Blue Point. Everybody here has been giving their qualifications tonight, so I'd like to give one of mine, which is the administrator of a suicide awareness foundation that was started after 2 children in this community committed suicide, a 14-year-old boy and a 16-year-old boy. Dr. Harney spoke earlier about the need to have books that kids can identify with in our school libraries, and I agree with that. He gave us some very tragic statistics about suicide. I'd like to add one of my own. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has listed the #1 cause of death for teenage boys of the age of 14 to be suicide. Let me just repeat that. The #1 cause in the United States for 14-year-old boys is suicide. Dr. Harney related suicide to LGBT communities who do not have books and reference of their own. While I'm talking about books and reference, a number of people today have spoken about education and curriculum. These books are not in the curriculum in Bayport Blue Point, not in the high school and not in the middle school. They are in the library as reference for children who want to take them out or who want to look at them in the library without having to take them out because they want to see something of themselves in those books. This is not curriculum. You need permission slips to view movies as curriculum in the high school. This is, again, not curriculum. Sorry, little older need glasses. I agree with all of these parents saying that they do not want porn in the schools. I don't want porn in the schools. Debbie Does Dallas is not appropriate at Bayport Blue Point. These books that may have a couple of pages that you don't like are very appropriate for the kids in this school district. Reading about anorexia and bulimia does not make children anorexic or bulimic, but it may help them recognize a friend who has those symptoms and help them reach out to people who may be able to help them. I don't agree with most of the parents who spoke today, as many of you know. What I do agree with is that there needs to be some coming together in this community. So instead of Facebook fights, maybe we can try to come together as a community to determine what will help these kids, 2 of whom committed suicide within the last 2 years, not feel that they're so alone.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? How are you?
Hi, my name is Molly Bertrand. I live in Blue Point, and I have 2 children in the district. My older daughter is in elementary school and has had a phenomenal experience thus far for the last 4 years. I'm here to oppose the books Genderqueer and All Boys Aren't Blue, based on the graphic content and images in these books. I don't think children in high school, ages 13 to 18, can read these books and fully understand the situations being presented. We all want our children to have access to books that make them feel accepted and included, but we have to do better than this for our kids. I think it's inappropriate to say this is all we can do to make somebody feel accepted in this district. I want to come together as a community. I would like to find common ground and find a solution, but I think this content is completely inappropriate. I would love to see what else we can do. What common ground can we find to move past this? But I know we can find more empowering books that make all of our students feel included without glorifying incest and showing graphic images of oral sex. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? Not hearing any. I will open it up to any. She's coming. We had another one. So I'll take it. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I have a question because, you know, working full-time and stuff, can I possibly make a comment on the consent agenda and a comment for this? Because I wasn't able to get here on time, I apologize. I just had a question because on the consent agenda, I saw that the high school librarian was removing 60 books from the shelf, and you guys approved that. I saw that her reasonings were they were outdated, irrelevant, and they don't circulate. I couldn't help but look at this list of books that the librarian, who I respect and love, because let me tell you, she's phenomenal. Miss her at the elementary level. So she professionally got to remove these books, and I started looking through them, and one of them is titled, where is it? Black and White. And I wonder why that book is being removed, because it's really about two friends that break racial stereotypes. They're inseparable, they watch each other's backs. It's about friendship, it's won awards. And then when I continued to look through all the books that were being removed, the majority of them are about sports and written by white men. I just don't understand why these books are being removed, because can you just stop being rude? You claim to be about love. I don't comment when you're talking.
We're just going to try to always be respectful. Thank you so much. We're looking at the list right now, and
I just know
we're gonna
students could probably benefit from these books. I don't know why they're being removed. They're new too. 2021, that book was purchased.
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Haas talk to that.
So when the school librarians go through a process every year of weeding collections based on the size of the library, based on the circulation of books in the library, they go through their criteria for it. It does go back to circulation, and if it's of student interest, then are they going out as they are looking to update their shelves each year? And that really is the process that they go through, and why a book may be weeded out of the shelf and put on for excess is that it has not been going through circulation.
So when you say not going through circulation, would you say one student is taking it out per year?
I'd have to get back to you in terms of specific answers.
Thank you, Mr. Haas.
I appreciate it. Thank you. May I now speak on the other part of the agenda? Thank you.
Could you state your name?
Oh, Jenna Michelizzi, Blue Point.
Thank you.
Thank you. If they comment, I'm going to ask you to please give me a couple seconds back, because it is distracting.
We've always
Okay?
been extremely respectful in this town, so they're going to give you all the respect that you deserve.
Fortunately, it's not always the case, but I'm here tonight as a mother and a taxpayer. Sadly, there's been a trend in this district over the past few years to stifle parent involvement. Some examples include limiting parents on field trips, to recently accusing high school students of being racist without informing their parents first. So now this situation is supplying pornography to minors without their parents' consent. Our town is sadly divided. Many are under the impression that you did conduct a proper investigation, and they're mad at us. They're very angry. Why are you bringing this up again? There are bigger issues. Yes, there are bigger issues, but unfortunately, when I became a mom, I became a lioness, and that's just the way it is. You went through your timeline, Dr. Harney. My timeline's a little different than yours. The first book complaint was filed on, I think, September 21st. Less than 2 months later, all of you decided to abolish policy 1420R. In that policy, it says that parents will get the opportunity to meet with the librarian and principal, so the librarian could explain the literary value. You know, if you guys had not abolished that, I really think we would have been in a different place right now, because we probably could have found some middle ground. Parents have emailed you numerous times asking you to just please provide the research. I'm a lifelong learner. I hate that term, but it's true. We want to know the literary value. We want you to give us answers. We asked you if you had resources that did not contain pornography, because we're very concerned about students in need. We don't want any student to not see themselves. There are plenty of books available that are not sexually explicit. Like Erin Marin's book, she talks about being raped and incest, but it's not erotic. She's not inciting excitement in her words. It's really interesting. I just want to note that Brentwood, Sayville, Islip, Connecticut, they all include parents on their instructional committee, and they also are very transparent. They list, Connecticut lists the names of the teachers that are on the committee. I think we would have more faith if you had been more transparent. But back to policy, Section 5D of Policy 1420 states that the council should consider oral presentations made to the committee. Why didn't you offer us a chance to speak to the committee? In fact, it's in your policy. Since you didn't allow such a meeting, parents did lose trust in you, because you wouldn't allow for a meeting. We did lose trust in you. I'm just being blatantly honest. We did not want to lose trust in you, but we did, and this is why we're frustrated, okay? You said, though, that
I just
council...
want to say 1420 wasn't abolished, though.
1420R. 1420- are the regulations.
That's just the regulation, that we didn't abolish the policy.
It's written. Check the minutes from November 15th, 2022.
When something, I'm sorry.
Eric, can you bring me my water, please? Thank you.
When, in this case, 1420, excuse me, in this case, 1420R was incorporated into 1420. So yes, 1420R was retired, but the wording was put into the regular policy.
But 1420R did have wording, thank you, that did include the meeting with the library. That was taken out.
I'm sorry, the meeting with the library?
For a teacher to meet with a librarian, so the librarian could explain the value. So it could have like a real conversation.
Okay.
So that was taken out in November, 2 months after the complaint was filed, which is not good timing. I'm sorry, so again, we lost faith, right? You didn't give us, I asked you, can you please, you were very kind during COVID, you gave us a forum to chat. I asked if you could do that, you didn't answer. Instead of listening to us, you said they consulted with the American Library Association. The American Library Association, the president is a self-proclaimed Marxist who manipulates the way pornographic books are cataloged so they can return them to the shelves. You care more about their opinion than our opinion. Finally, I know Mr. Kennedy mentioned policy 4526.1 with internet safety. You list the definition of pornography right on your policy. Sexually, where are we? Child pornography refers to any visual depiction, including any photograph, film, video, picture, or computer-generated image or picture, whether made or produced electronic, mechanical, or other means. Why are you protecting children from pornography on their computers, but not in the library? It doesn't make sense. I know that you said there's literary value. Again, I would like to know the literary value. Dr. Harney consulted with law. You mentioned the PICO case. That's a great case for the Board of Ed to really study, because that was an example of a stellar Board of Education that did defend children against pornography. But you know what? You didn't mention the New York versus Ferber case from 1982, which ultimately concluded that states are in fact allowed to remove material depicting children engaged in sexual activity, that visual depictions of children engaged in sexual activity have negligible artistic value, and that a book need not be deemed legally obscene before it's outlawed. Imagine that. So it's a good thing we have that case to refer to. I hate to say,
so much.
You know what, but you're in criminal violation.
Thank you so much.
You're breaking the law, and I'd like to make a motion for you all to remove the books right now.
Thank you so much.
Well, I just have to say, because again, you're not treating me like a human and having a conversation, on behalf of the hundreds of parents that have just pleaded with you and gotten nowhere, and we have 700 signatures of people against this, I'm going to serve you with this notice that you are breaking the law. You're breaking many laws. You're breaking the federal law, USC Section 2252, Article 263 of the New York Penal Code, New York Penal Law Section 260.10, 260.20, and 263.15, and Erin's Law, which you promote. Mrs. Benetti, I'm going to give this to you.
Thank you
We
so
would
much.
like a response in 20 days. Please make copies for the Board of Education.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? Moving on to trustee new business. Oh. Ms. Palmer? Oh. Hey, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Capozzi, Bayport resident. I personally think, I agree with a lot of people that it should be my child, my choice, whether or not we wanted to look at the books. So I had my two sons in 9th and 11th grade. I asked them to, ask their friends, if they thought this was porn. And they came back to me and they said that, hold on, I have it here. They said it would be a very challenging wank. So they did not think it was pornography, but.
Let's be respectful. Let's be respectful.
And on another point, one of the ladies in the start of the meeting had brought up busing, and I think a much bigger risk to students is, some high school students have to walk up to 2 miles to get to school, so it'd be great if, we could expand the child safety zones. I'm sure that's something most people would agree with. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Just a couple of questions. That statement that you read in the beginning of the meeting, do you have a printed copy of that, or do you intend to put it on the website?
I can get, I don't have a printed copy of them right now, but I can get it for you guys and put it on the website, yeah.
So you're going to put it on the website?
I have not asked the board, but I will definitely make sure this copy is available, yeah.
Okay, because that kind of outlines your sort of new revamped approach to this issue, right? Or it just establishes your position currently.
I wouldn't agree with that. I would just say I walked us through the process that we followed, and I also said the board would be considering. So I think it would be up to the policy committee to consider the next steps, but.
Okay, is that your only copy right there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take a picture of that maybe before I leave, because it's public information, right? And it's on, this is being videoed right now, right?
Yeah, so I will
Okay.
make sure we get a copy, but no, I mean, you don't need to take this. This is mine, but
No,
I will
I'll
make
just
sure
take
you
a
get a
picture of
copy.
it. I'm sure that's not a
I
problem.
will make sure you get a copy of it.
You
have my
shared
words.
it publicly.
You have my
so-
words. I don't hide from my words.
Okay, so you're going to post it on the website? And
No,
I
I've
can-
been making notes the whole meeting. That's my only copy, so I would like to keep it.
Oh, okay, but you're going to make it
I will make
available
sure
to
everyone
the
gets a
public.
copy.
Okay, so that's a yes?
We'll make sure we read it into the minutes, and we'll make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay, and Dr. Harney, what you read, is that available also? Okay. Okay. Next question is, as far as emails regarding this issue, or I guess phone calls, you're tracking all of that, you're keeping track of all the emails for and against, and all the details that are associated with emails, right? I mean, you're obviously collecting those emails, and I would assume you're organizing them to kind of take the pulse of the community as far as where everybody stands. Is that right? No, you're collecting emails, you're receiving emails on the issue. I'm sure you've received emails from a lot of people
We
in
have
the
received
community on
emails
this.
on both sides.
Okay, so, okay, so is there any kind of a ratio that you have now as far as for and against?
Not one
And
that
I'm just curious.
Not one that I'm willing
I
to
am
speak
opposed
to.
to the books. I mean, full disclosure here, but I just want to know, I want to know what you know as
Very
far as
similar,
where the community
50-50.
stands.
Very similar.
Pardon me?
Very similar. Amounts on both ends.
I didn't hear that.
Very similar amounts from both sides.
Very similar. Okay, so the emails, just so everybody knows, they are accessible by every single person in this room, whether or not actually you do come from Bayport Blue Point. So I can FOIA up all those emails with redactions that are appropriate, and then
Obviously-
I can evaluate for myself the ratio of for and against. Is that correct? I know it's correct.
you know you
I'm
can
just
FOIL.
saying it's you, and I kind of want people to be aware of their rights as far as understanding where the community stands with the issue. So I will be, FOIAing them up, and I expect them. You have 5 days to get to me a response, whether or not I can have them, and then you have 20 days after that 5 days to actually get the documentation. And I'm assuming it's going to be pretty easy, right? Right?
Pretty easy to pull emails, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Palmer. Thank you. How are you?
Hi, my name is Patrick Rube from Blue Point. 2 questions. One, we got to figure out this bus situation because I'm hearing a lot of problems with it before we have any more buses put onto the budget for this year. And 2, I'm curious, I got the letter from Mr. Levy, and I saw it was from his law office. Will the district tell us how much this, if he's going after them, like suing them, how much the legal fees will cost the taxpayer or be put in the budget for all this extra nonsense going on? How much is going to cost the taxpayers? Do we have an estimate yet or no? Okay, I just would like the board to let the community keep us updated on the process of how much this will cost us, if that's possible.
I mean,
I appreciate that.
All
I mean, we should. Yeah, I know. When I saw law office of Steve Levy, I'm like, oh, well, I guess he's going after the district, so that's going to cost us more money, and we have a pretty high budget already. So I just was curious how much it's going to cost us all. Thank you.
thank you so much, Mr. Rube. How are you?
Mr. Haas. Hi. Dr. Harney, hello. I'm a little late to this party, this book party, because I simply did not believe what people were telling me.
Can we just get your
that
name real
you
quick?
were allowing this pornography.
Can we just get your name real quick, please?
My name is Lynn Bowden. I live in Bayport.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So, Dr. Harney, I just didn't come to any of these meetings about the books because I didn't believe what people were telling me about you. I didn't believe it. You and I have disagreed in the past, but I always respected you. I always respected your judgment. So I just wanted to tell you a couple of short stories about a couple of experiences of my kids, okay? 5 years ago, my daughter was in 9th grade here at this school, and she was going through a stage in which she wanted to read naughty books, okay? And instead of indiscriminately saying yes or no, we agreed that I would read the books first and pass them to her if I approved. And most of the time, I did indulge her. That year, she chose to read a pretty controversial novel, and I allowed it. And her English teacher, however, would not allow her to report on it. It was for a book report because the novel portrayed an inappropriate and sexual relationship between an adolescent and an older man. And her teacher did not want the class exposed to the content. So fast forward 5 years, Bayport High School is now serving up much worse than the novel Lolita, okay? The differences between these two books, okay, I'm going to highlight them. The book I allowed my daughter to read contained no X-rated pictures. It did not titillate. It did not glorify the relationship. The sexually charged passages were relatively subtle, but my daughter still understood how disturbing and creepy the story was, okay? She was not turned on by it. This is not the case with these two books in your school library, okay? Then, last year, my son, who has scoliosis, okay, I was begging the school district I would have supplied an iPad for him because it weighs 1 pound. Instead, he has to carry a 4-pound Chromebook, okay? And his doctor, you know, they don't want him to carry too much on his back, okay? And I was told that, oh, you know, you can't do that. You can't let him have access because, and I said, why? Well, because he might access pornography. You're supplying it in the schools. It's in the library. And yet you wouldn't let my son have an iPad because of his scoliosis. It would have really lightened the load of his backpack. So, you know, some of you here might...
Thank you so much.
Some of you people might think I'm nuts for allowing my daughter to read a controversial book like that, but it was my choice. I drove her to the library. It wasn't supplied surreptitiously in the school library behind my back, okay? It was my choice, and you know, you didn't usurp my authority. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, how are you?
My name is Amy Hope. I'm a resident of Bayport. I had no intentions of speaking tonight, but there has been a common thread here and something I feel I have to address. I am extremely passionate about children. It has been my life's work. I love every child that comes into my classroom, every child I pass in the hallway. It is who I am. It's in me. The fact that we're saying we need these books to represent other children, there is so much more to these children than a strap-on they might use. There's so much more to them. There are so many transgenders who have incredible experiences that they can talk about. And we want them to feel okay. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to feel accepted and included. That's what we want. What we don't want is visual depictions of sexual activity in our school library. That's what we don't want. And there's one more thing, and this is so, so important. There's no politics here. There's none. It's so awesome not to talk about politics. All there is common sense, and I plead with you to find it and use it.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? How are you?
You know, very hot. I am not from the community.
Can you say that again?
I am not from the community. My name is
If you wanted to
Diane
speak,
Lloyd.
everyone must be voted in, and you would
And
have to be voted
when?
in by the
Right-
board. So
right now?
Right now. So unfortunately,
Okay.
tonight we were not taking any outside
Could I
members
just
from the
tell you
community.
who I am for a minute and identify myself? I think you'd be very interested in what I have to say, and so will the rest of the community. My name is Diane Lloyd.
You'd have to be voted in by the majority vote. So
Just to
unfortunately, tonight.
just to say who I am? Just to say who I am, so you can do that?
Who are you?
My name is Diane Lloyd. I am the co-founder and executive director of Long Island Citizens for Community Values. We work to protect women, children, and families from the harmful effects of pornography.
All right,
and
so
the
thank you so
sexualized
much.
culture.
We appreciate it. But
Okay,
we're only taking
It's okay. It's okay.
taking we're only I will definitely take this.
Thank you. Just take that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? Not hearing any, I will open it up for any trustee new business. Not hearing any, Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Johnson, second.
Second.
Ms. Pignataro, all in favor? Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.